So the 2013 Australia Day flood will be etched in my memory for the rest of my life.
10 years since the flood. In some ways it seems like yesterday, and then other days it seems like a lifetime ago.
Okay, so what's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the floods? It was just unbelievable, the sheer volume of water. You just couldn't imagine it until you actually came in and seen it.
Yeah, wow, what do I remember about the flood? I remember receiving the phone call from Tanya initially on the night the water started to rise, and she asked me, do I know anyone with a boat? And I said, well, Greg's got a boat. I didn't realise what was just going on.
The day before, we'd had a phone call from one of the disaster guys to say, we're going to get a little bit of water through the organisation. So I spent the day, I rang one of the other managers, and we spent the day just collecting stuff off the floor, putting it on people's desks. I can remember vividly sending an email to the team to say, hey, really sorry, been in your personal space. We'll get together, when everyone's back at work tomorrow, and we'll sort it out. Came in the next day, which was Australia Day, and thought I'll just go in and just see how much water we actually did get through. All I could see was water. My mind couldn't actually work through what was actually going on, because I'm sort of thinking, what is going on? And I feel, on reflection on that, I sort of feel all I was worried about was impact. If I'm really honest, I was worried about impact. I was worried about the team. I could see everything else going on, but all I wanted was to get into that organisation at that point in time. So I rang one of the guys, Greg, and he was amazing. He just went, yep, I'm going to be straight there. So he met me where we could get to, the access that we could get to. At that point in time, in 2013, our server was in the building. We knew all of the data for the organisation, the ability to pay our people, so the payroll needed to be run from the server. So this building that was inundated by over 1 metre of water held all of our data that ran the whole organisation. So that was probably the most critical thing that we needed to safely get out of the organisation and onto the boat.
Tornado that came through Burnett Head. Well, it was about 5 actually, and I was over at Janine, lived across the road from me then, and there was nothing to do. We had no power, so people were starting to congregate on her veranda, and the rain eased, and I said, well, I'm just going to run over home and get some more beers. And I was standing in the middle of the street, and I wondered, what the bloody hell is that noise coming over from Burnett Head State School? And it came over the trees, and it was a tornado. And I just saw all the tin and everything caught up in the tornado coming straight for us. And I went, holy shit. And I raced home and just grabbed the back door. I went along my back fence, and I had a yellow raincoat on. Well, as the tornado come through, they were all watching, and there was this yellow thing that had been sucked up in the tornado, and they thought it was me. So they came running over to the house, and I was hanging onto the back door, white as a ghost, and Janine was at the front door going, my God. I thought I'd been sucked up in this tornado.
While we were still in Building 1, after several hours of working, need depth just kept rising. So we knew we had to work quickly. After hours of working in that, sewerage water, we looked up and the lights were still on. Crap! How could I have not remembered about the electricity? But at no point did you even give that a thought. It was just, we've got to save everything that we can.
What was unusual was when the actual flooding was occurring, the sun was out, and it was beautiful weather, and then all of a sudden it was coming down from the catchment, and things started to happen. And then Peter Gainey and I went in. Peter Gainey was in HR and that at the time, And we went in to get the photos before anyone came for the insurance, before anyone was allowed in the building for the insurance assessors. And I just remember looking at my desk and seeing a report that I had that was going to go in on the Monday or Tuesday, I think it was. And I'd proofread it and I'd put it on my desk and it was just gone. I just remember looking in and my desk was gone and everything was coated in mud. The kitchen and the function room really blew me away. The fridges had floated up and there was just mud and there was stuff everywhere. And most of my programs were on the bottom floor, the mental health and disability services and everything, and they were just gone, just devastating. And it was like, wow. But the reaction was, you know what, let's get into it and clean it up. And it was just wonderful to see the spirit of so many of the long-term impact staff at the time just got in and didn't even think, they just got in and did it, you know, and we did it. And beyond all belief, you know, it only took us a few days to initially get all that mud out, and it was long days and we were buggered and we were cranky and everything and upset and all these emotions coming out, but we just did it.
It was devastating, absolutely devastating. Coming in to see the aftermath of when the water went down and the cleanup had to start, it was like going into almost a war zone.
When you first came to Impact, we could get in once the water subsided, it was like, where the hell do you start? The whole bottom floor, every car that was here, the pool, the yards, etc., all just covered in mud. All we could see was this enormous job in front of us and we needed to get it done.
The smell, the humidity, the shock, the awe, you just didn't know where to start. One of the big things that I remember at that point in time was how quick we actually jumped into action. We were up and running within 24 hours. Whoever was available was at R&C. We had desks all set up out there. We were ready to go. We were checking on clients. One of the main things that I was involved in was actually going to the emergency shelters and seeing if we could locate as many clients as possible that we knew that their houses or accommodation was in flood zones. So we had to track these people down and, you know, do welfare checks and check on them and see how they were travelling as well.
I clearly remember leaving Impact one day after working and cleaning up mud and debris and dropping into Sugarland to grab something for dinner. And as I was leaving the army, arriving in Bundaberg and having to give way to them there onto Calvin Street. And I just cried. And even when I tell that story, I still well up. It was like, this is our town. This doesn't happen to us. It was really amazing just watching that and hearing the helicopters going to and from, you know, from North Bundaberg, getting people back across this side of the river. And it was just like something out of a movie. It was just so bizarre.
Staff that had been affected themselves, their houses were badly damaged, but they let that go and they came to work. And another thing I remember, in the time of, I don't know what emotions were going on, and I wrote a letter to Jenny Macklin, who was the Minister for Social Services in Canberra at the time, to explain what happened, and she sent us a cheque for 70 grand. I've never shown anyone that letter. She read it out in Parliament, so my letter got read out in Parliament. So that was pretty cool.
Going into the rescue place out at the Agro Trends Showground was just really overwhelming. There was hundreds of people that needed support. And as soon as they seen our Impact t-shirts, you know, they were coming straight up to us and asking for that help and asking if, you know, we could support them coming back on site to help with the cleanup on site here was really hard because everything was just destroyed. Everything. Yeah, drawers, desks, chairs, plants, paperwork. And you were just having to throw everything. And this vast volume of our resources was just no good no more. It all had to go to the dump. It was contaminated. We had a lot of key learnings with that. So one of the main things I remember is looking at where our internet and our electricity is positioned in the buildings now. Looking at our resources such as desks and filing cabinets and things and getting them on wheels. So, if we ever face it again, we could easily move them up. We could move them around quickly rather than having to lift it. So those sorts of things. So the rebuilding of the building itself had changes. So we knew that those sorts of things were safer and that would help us bounce back quicker as well. We also had that special material on the walls at that flood level as well. So if it was to ever happen again, we would have that easier cleanup and it'd obviously be more hygienic as well. So working in that space after it was rebuilt, looking around at, the drainage system that's actually at the bottom of your office wall or your internet port and electricity ports are, at a higher level than normal, reminded you that, we had survived a flood and we just kept going, which was really good. It goes to show the endurance of the organisation and the empowerment of staff as well to just get up and keep going. I remember a lot of our staff also had their own personal premises affected by floods as well, and there wasn't much that they could actually do at that stage in their neighbourhood. So they were still coming to work and helping clean here for a few hours if they could. At the end of the day, there was staff here that were like, rightio, that staff member's house is flooded, and they would all go over there in the afternoon and do a couple more hours and help out there. So everyone come together and just helped. There was some really good stuff that come out of a really bad experience.
One funny moment was, I guess, Dave Lowther and I went up to one of the rental houses just a couple of doors up from Impact, and the lady in there, and we go right over and rip the carpet up. Greg was with us, that's right. And we ripped the carpet up and we started gurning, and she grabbed a handbag and disappeared. And after about 3 hours, I said to the neighbour, has anyone seen the lady that lives here? And she said, oh, yeah, she's up at the East End. I'm like, what? So we'd cleaned her house. She just went and got drunk while we cleaned the house out.
It was really cool that at times people would just drop in off the street. I remember a truckload of guys just dropping in and giving us a hand. People would do that. Don't know who they were to this day, but people did just reach out and assist anyone in the community. It's really interesting because people talk about having team building activities, and the best team building activity we ever did was clean up after the floods. Everybody pitched in and contributed in ways that they could. This meant whether that be through shoveling mud and ripping up carpet, or whether it was to make the sandwiches and morning teas and things like that. I hope Bundaberg, and I hope that I never have to experience that again.